There was a time when Detroit wasn't just another American city, it was the city. If you wanted to understand American power, American industry, American ambition, you looked at Detroit. This was where the modern middle class was built, where factory jobs didn't just pay the bills, they built entire lives, where a single paycheck could buy a house, raise a family, and still leave something behind. Detroit wasn't struggling. It wasn't catching up. It was leading. And not quietly either. At its peak, Detroit was one of the richest cities in the world. Not the United States. The world. Let that sink in for a second. Because when people talk about Detroit today, they usually skip that part. They go straight to the decline, the abandoned buildings, the bankruptcy, the headlines. But before any of that, Detroit was an empire. And like most empires, it didn't collapse all at once. It peaked. It expanded. It dominated. Then, slowly, it started to crack. To understand what happened, you have to go back to the beginning. Because Detroit didn't become powerful by accident. It was built around one thing: cars. More specifically, the auto industry. This is where companies like Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler didn't just operate, they defined the entire economy. Factories stretched across the city, production lines ran constantly, and the scale was massive. At one point, Detroit was producing a huge percentage of the world's automobiles. Think about that. One city helping drive global industry. That kind of concentration creates something powerful. Jobs. Thousands of them. Then hundreds of thousands. And these weren't low-paying, unstable jobs. These were solid, middle-class jobs. Union-backed. Consistent. Reliable. The kind of work that allowed people to plan long-term. And when you combine that with rapid industrial growth, you get population. A lot of it. People moved to Detroit from everywhere. Across the United States. From Europe. From the American South. Everyone chasing the same thing. Opportunity. And for a long time, Detroit delivered. The city exploded in size. Neighborhoods expanded. Downtown developed. Infrastructure grew. Everything pointed in one direction. Up. But rapid growth always comes with risk. Because when a city becomes dependent on one industry, no matter how strong that industry feels, it creates vulnerability. And Detroit was deeply tied to the auto industry. Almost entirely. So when that industry started to change, everything else followed. The first cracks didn't feel like a collapse. They felt like adjustments. Competition increased. Foreign automakers entered the market. Efficiency became more important. Costs became more scrutinized. Then automation started reducing the need for labor. Factories that once needed thousands of workers needed fewer. Then fewer. Then fewer again. Jobs didn't disappear overnight, but they slowly declined. And at first, the city absorbed it. Because momentum was still strong. But then, the losses started stacking. More layoffs, more closures, more uncertainty. And when job stability disappears, so does population stability. People started leaving, not all at once, but steadily. Those who could find opportunities elsewhere did. And when people leave, cities change. Tax revenue drops. Public services strain. Infrastructure becomes harder to maintain. And that's when decline becomes visible. Not just economic. Physical, buildings empty, stores close, neighborhoods thin out. And once that process starts, it feeds itself. Because decline creates perception, and perception affects decisions. If people believe a city is declining, they are less likely to invest in it, less likely to move there, more likely to leave. And Detroit became the national symbol of that perception. The Rust Belt narrative took hold. Detroit wasn't just struggling. It became the example, the warning, the place people pointed to and said, "This is what happens when everything goes wrong." Then things got worse, much worse. By the time the 2000s arrived, Detroit wasn't just declining, it was collapsing. Population had dropped dramatically. Entire neighborhoods were abandoned. Crime increased. Public finances deteriorated. And then came the moment that confirmed it for everyone. Then, in 2013, it happened. Detroit filed for bankruptcy, the largest municipal bankruptcy in US history. That wasn't just a financial event. It was symbolic. It told the world something people already suspected. Detroit had fallen. Completely. Or at least, that's what it looked like. Because here's the part most people don't understand. Cities don't just die. Not completely. Even in their worst moments, they still have assets, still have infrastructure, still have location advantages, still have people. And Detroit had all of that, even at its lowest point. It still had major highways, international border access with Canada, a deep industrial base, large amounts of land, historic architecture, and a core that, while struggling, was still there, which meant something important. Detroit wasn't starting from zero. It was rebuilding from something. And slowly, that rebuilding started. At first, it didn't look like much. A few developments, some downtown investment, small business activity. Nothing that screamed comeback, but over time, it grew. Investors saw opportunity. Because where others saw decline, they saw undervalued assets, cheap real estate, untapped potential, room to build. And that matters. Because unlike overcrowded, fully built-out cities, Detroit had space. A lot of it. And space creates possibility. Then came something else. Diversification. Detroit couldn't rely on the auto industry alone anymore. So the economy started expanding. Healthcare, education, technology, logistics, smaller industries, but more balanced, less dependent on a single sector. And that creates stability. Then there's downtown. This is where the comeback is most visible. Restaurants returned, offices reopened, developments expanded, public spaces improved, and suddenly the narrative started shifting. Not completely, but noticeably. People started talking about Detroit differently, not just as a warning, but as a possibility, a comeback story. Now, before we get carried away, it's important to be realistic. Detroit's comeback is not universal. Some areas are improving rapidly. Others are still struggling. The city is not fully recovered, not even close. Population is still lower than its peak. Challenges still exist. Inequality remains a major issue, and many neighborhoods haven't seen the same level of reinvestment. So, no, This isn't a perfect turnaround. It's uneven, complicated, still in progress. But it's real, because the city has stabilized, and in some areas, it's growing again, which is something many people never expected to see. And that's what makes Detroit so interesting, not just as a story of decline, but as a case study, because it shows how cities evolve, how they rise, how they fall, and how sometimes they find a way to adapt. Detroit didn't become an empire overnight, and it didn't collapse overnight either. And its comeback, that's not happening overnight either. But it is happening, quietly, gradually, in a way that doesn't always make headlines, but changes the trajectory over time. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Because cities don't usually explode into success instantly, and they don't disappear instantly either. They shift, slowly, based on economics, based on people, based on decisions made over decades. Detroit is just one of the most extreme examples of that process. A city that went from global dominance to national symbol of decline to something more complicated, something still being written. And maybe that's why people keep paying attention to it. Because Detroit isn't just a place. It's a reminder of how fast things can rise, how far they can fall, and how difficult but possible it is to come back.